If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. We've got a bunch of your garden questions that we are going to answer. If you've got a question, you can submit it at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can give us a call anytime, 24/7 at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW. And we will get the question answered for your particular gardening problem. Let's start with this one, Holly. We're starting seeds indoors, and a question came in and said, I noticed these flies flying around in the air coming out of the soil. What are they? Should I be concerned? How do I deal with it?
Yeah, so those are fungus gnats, that's basically what they are. And it's very normal. They live in the soil. Their eggs live in the soil, your potting soil. So you can sprinkle cinnamon over the soil, just regular household cinnamon. You can get the cheap stuff, just a dusting, and this has antifungal properties, and it helps keep those gnats away. So that is what you can do. Also, if you already have the gnats, you can take a shallow dish, put a few drops of dish soap in it, so like a little saucer or something like that, a few drops of dish soap, and then you want to add the rest with some apple cider vinegar, mix that up, and those gnats will find their way into it.
Works very well. Here's a question here. They're in Zone 4A. When is a good time to start seeds? When is the right time to uncover my buried rose bushes and prune established lilacs, climbing roses, and fruit trees? So there's a lot of information here. So when it comes to seed starting in any zone, you want to base it on your last average frost date. You can go to your favorite search engine and type in last average frost date, insert your zip code, and it will pull up the map and give you an indication of when that time occurs. Now, that doesn't mean if May 1st is your last average frost date, you can plant stuff May 2nd. We covered this last week on the program. This is the guideline. So it still holds true. 12 weeks for leeks, 12 weeks before your last average frost date for leeks and onions, peppers, celery in that range, tomatoes 8 weeks, brassicas 6 weeks, that type of thing. So keep that in mind. When it comes to when to uncover your buried rose bush, what was the reason why you covered it buried it for the first reason? To keep it from freezing, to keep it, alive. So you want to wait until all danger of frost and freeze is over. Then you can dig it out. Pruning lilacs, you want to do that in early spring before the buds open up, or you want to wait until fall. For the flowers. Now, you want to be aware that you don't want to prune too much, because some of the buds, if you prune too much, the buds will be taken off. That was going to be the flowers for this year, so keep that in mind. We've got several lilac bushes in the big garden and at your sister's backyard. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've ever been pruned once, as long as I can. No. So you don't necessarily have to prune them. You prune them for control more than anything. And when it comes to pruning your fruit trees and your climbing rose, the time to prune is autumn through winter while they are in dormancy stage. For fruit trees, early spring before the buds appear, and then also you can prune it in the fall as long as it's still in dormancy. It's a good time to prune to get rid of some of those excess limbs. And by pruning a fruit tree, you may think you're damaging the tree by taking out a limb that produced a lot of pears or apples or whatever the case is. However, you're reducing the amount of fruit that's on that tree, but you're increasing the volume of that individual pieces of fruit. Instead of having small fruit, you will have larger fruit because you're pruning it back and the tree has more energy to build up those fruits on the tree. So that's something to be aware of. Another question here, is it best to germinate your seeds before planting, soaking them, or is it okay to just put them in the ground and water them and let them germinate that way?
Well, you don't have to soak your seeds. You just want to keep your soil moist, and they will do just fine. We do soak larger seeds, such as peas, beans, corn. It is easier to handle the time based on the size of the seeds. Small seeds, you can soak anywhere from 15 minutes to peas 2 to 3 hours. Some people soak their seeds overnight. It's kind of up to you.
Larger seeds are much easier.
Yeah. As far as, I don't know if you're asking if you can just...
There are people who soak all their seeds in a paper towel method in a bag and then transplant them.
Like homemade seed tape. And also, you don't have to start your seeds either. You can throw most of them, direct sow them, just depending on what you're doing. So here's another one is would you grow strawberries or blueberries in containers? Many gardeners do this and have a great crop. However, strawberries put off, since they're perennial, strawberries put off those runners, which are daughter plants. So what they do is they shoot
on the June bearing.
Yeah, on the June bearing. If they're ever bearing, they don't do this, but the June bearing do. So it'd be important to know, because if you grow them in a container, they start shooting off those runners. You have to have a place for them to go, or be aware that this is going on.
However, you're planting a perennial plant, a strawberry, that that will grow for 5 to 7 years, and you're putting it in a container, and you've got to keep it alive for essentially 26, 28 weeks a year, and it goes into dormancy over winter, for a couple of weeks of berries. And sometimes it's not, abundant of berries. So my suggestion would be avoid putting strawberries in containers. Either establish it in a ground garden or just go to your pick your own farm. Now, on the other side of that, with the blueberry in containers,
they need a lower acid soil?
More acidity.
Soil.
Yeah. Lower pH, about 4.5. So I would recommend doing that in a container.
But you would want to make sure you do that lower pH soil in that container, not just taking whatever soil you may have.
Because your plant will die. Yes, it will. It will die.
It will die. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So Sherry asked if my potatoes have sprouted from last year, but they're all small. Will I still get good-sized potatoes this year?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's based on the variety of the seed potato. Recommended, if you're going to plant seed potatoes in which you saved from last year, or any seed potato, whether you get it from Wood Prairie Farms or you get it from your organic gardening center or food or grocery store, you want the minimum size to be a chicken egg, is the smallest you really want to plant. That will ensure you to have enough energy in that sprout in order to grow a plant, as well as have a good offshoot of tubers. The smaller the potato, realistically, the smaller the harvest is going to be in girth and size of that potato. So you want to avoid it. Just eat those. Snap the eyes off of them. Go ahead and eat them, bake them, and get some decent size seed potatoes in order to have good success and make it worth the effort in order to grow them. Sean asked, how many pole beans can I put in a 5-gallon bucket with a trellis attached to it?
Well, that would be 1. Because it's about 1 square foot, right?
It's 9 beans per.
Oh, it's 9 beans.
A 5-gallon bucket is approximately 1 square foot. So with a pole with bush beans, you can get 9 in there. With pole beans, you can only get 8 in a 5-gallon bucket with a trellis, and you're going to add good nutrient soil in that bucket. So keep that in mind. Be sure you have drainage holes in anything that you do.
And you don't want to just put the drainage holes in the bottom. You want to put them around the bottom of the sides too.
About an inch up. Leave the bottom alone. About an inch up the side of the bucket to allow a little water reservoir to establish in the bucket. Have you used coffee grounds as mulch around tomato plants? Listen to a couple of podcasts, and they are talking about that it's good to put around your tomatoes. However, that is not a good suggestion or advice to be given, because a couple of things. You put too much coffee grounds around the base, and it creates a thick layer of that water can't permeate through. It creates a big, thick mulch and big mess. You can incorporate the coffee grounds in the soil.
Yeah, it's a great food for worms, and it'll help build up the organic matter in your garden. And you can just go ahead and mix them in, and even with the filters as well. So, and if you drink a tea, you could do tea grounds.
Right.
Not the same benefits, but still beneficial to your soil, and will feed the worms. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.